Here's a little secret. If you get these 4 things right, you are guaranteed to get a job offer in Japan. 100%. Seriously, you don't need to be fluent in Japanese. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 4 essential principles you need to truly understand if you want to land your dream job in Japan. If you don't get these, all your efforts making resumes or practicing interviews just won't work. These are the foundations. But if you do master them, any company, any role, you're in. So if you are currently studying in Japan, working here, and thinking about a career change, or planning to come to Japan on specified skilled worker visa, stick around. This one's made for you. Hey friends, if you are new to this channel, I'm Kazu, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've supported many international friends in getting jobs in Japan. I personally received the offer from the top-tier Japanese companies or global firms or a strategic consulting role at one of the big 4. So trust me, I know exactly what it takes to land your dream job in Japan. You're in the right place, so let's jump right in. First, let's talk about something super important. Understanding what companies really want from you. Maybe you've spent hours preparing different Q&A examples, practicing interviews, and still failed in round 1. Sounds familiar? That might be because you prepared answers based on assumptions, not reality. What companies actually want is simple. They want talented people. Here's the thing. According to research by Disco, the number 1 reason Japanese companies hire international students is to secure exceptional talent. Not because you are multilingual, not because you are international, because they think you are excellent. So your goal is to prepare in a way that shows, hey, I'm one of the best people you could hire. Let's dig a little deeper. How do companies actually decide whether a candidate is high caliber? From my experience, it comes down to 4 key factors. Number 1, minimum Japanese language proficiency. Number 2, reproducibility. Number 3, persistence. Number 4, your personality. And here's the truth. If you can clearly demonstrate reproducibility, persistence, and personality, you can get an offer from any company. Job interviews in Japan are basically a game where you explain those 3 things in Japanese. In other words, hiring managers are evaluating you based on whether you show those 3 qualities. That's how they decide if you are worth a job offer. Let me explain each one quickly. Reproducibility refers to your ability to achieve results in new environment based on your past experiences and accomplishments. Companies want to see whether the success you had before can be replicated after you join their team. Persistence is all about your ability to stay. Companies invest a lot in hiring one person, so they don't want to lose you after a short time. Personality refers to your character and behavioral traits, how well you'll fit in with the team and the company culture. Starting to get the picture? Now, let's break these 4 elements down one by one, and I'll show you how to build the powerful answers that the hiring manager will love. Tips 1. How to show minimum Japanese proficiency. Let me start with a surprising fact. You might think that passing a job interview in Japan requires super high-level Japanese, right? Actually, that's not always the case, depending on the role and the industry. Having JLPT N4 or even N5 can be enough to get through interviews. Why? Because most of the questions asked in interviews are very predictable. If you prepare a solid Q&A script and practice it thoroughly, you can succeed, even with top-tier companies like Toyota or Sony. In fact, I've had friends who didn't even have N3, but after practicing interview Q&As with me, they received job offers from Japanese companies. So here's the bottom line. Focus on getting the job offer first, and level up your Japanese after. So what exactly should you do to prove that you have the minimum Japanese level companies are looking for? There are two main things. Step 1. Create 30 to 50 sample Q&A scripts. The first step is to create at least 30, ideally 50, interview Q&A examples. Let me ask you, have you already prepared your own set of Q&A before interviews? Even native Japanese people usually prepare and practice Q&A scripts before stepping into an interview. In that kind of environment, preparing your own Q&A set isn't optional. It's your lifeline. If you want to stand out and get selected, you need to do this. Now, here are 3 key tips when building your Q&A. Number 1. Make sure your answers reflect the big 3. Make sure each answer demonstrates the 3 key traits we talked about earlier: persistence, reproducibility, and personality. Your Q&As should clearly showcase these on screen. I'll explain exactly how to do this in detail a bit later. Number 2. Start in your native language, then translate. If your Japanese isn't strong yet, I highly recommend thinking and writing your answers in your mother tongue first. Why? Because crafting responses that reflect those 3 traits, reproducibility, persistence, and personality, takes real effort. It's better to focus on the content first, then translate. Build solid logic in your native language, and only then convert it into Japanese. Number 3. Make sure your Japanese sounds natural to native speakers. Interviews don't expect your spoken Japanese to be perfect, but your Q&A script and your resume should aim for correct, natural Japanese. This shows that you've taken your preparation seriously. Even if your Japanese isn't fluent yet, practicing your answers again and again will naturally level up your speaking. By the time you step into the actual interview, you'll be ready. And honestly, during the real interview, a few mistakes here and there won't be a deal breaker. If you're unsure whether your Japanese sounds natural, it's worth investing in a professional translation service. Ideally one that specializes in job hunting Japanese. Business Japanese is very different from casual conversation. I wouldn't recommend relying on AI tools like ChatGPT just yet for this kind of writing. Yes, the technology is evolving rapidly, and it's honestly impressive. But AI-generated sentences still often feel slightly off. And trust me, native Japanese speakers can usually spot them immediately. That said, ChatGPT can be incredibly useful when used the right way. I'll cover how to make the most of it in a separate video soon, so stay tuned for that. The second thing you need to do to show companies that you have sufficient Japanese ability is this. Practice your Q&A answers over and over until you can communicate smoothly. Once your Q&A set is ready, start rehearsing. Nowadays, there are tons of affordable online Japanese lessons out there. Ideally, practice for at least 30 minutes a day. If you can find a tutor who specializes in job interview prep, that's even better. By the way, I also offer the support for mock interviews, so if you are interested, check out the link in the description below. One more crucial point during this phase: don't study general Japanese. Time is limited, so set your priorities. Focus only on the Japanese that you are likely to use in actual interviews. That's where your time will pay off the most. Tip 2. How to showcase reproducibility. As I mentioned earlier, reproducibility means that your ability to keep performing well after joining the company. This is something company says through the following questions. Tell us about yourself. Self-PR. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What's your biggest achievement? What was the most difficult experience you've had? What did you work hardest on during your student years? how did you overcome that challenge? When building answers to these kinds of questions, there are 3 key tips. First, carefully read the job description and understand the type of person the company is looking for. Then choose the episode from your experience that matches that profile. For example, if the company is looking for someone with strong analytical skills, pick a story that clearly demonstrates how you used analytical thinking to solve a problem. It sounds basic, but here's the truth. Most people skip this step because it feels like too much effort, which is exactly why doing it will give you a major edge. Second, that story you prepare should highlight something uniquely creative that you did in a past experience. Here is something important. Companies don't actually care that much about results, like I increased sales by 150%. Flashy achievements are nice, but they're not everything. And honestly, anyone can say something impressive on paper. What they really want to know is how you did it. They are interested in the unique efforts and thinking that led to those outcomes, because that's what tells them how you'll perform once you're part of their team. For example, if you are applying for a role that values analytical thinking, you could say something like, to understand customer needs, I conducted a survey, then categorized the responses into 10 segments based on demographics. I identified the largest group and designed a sales strategy tailored specifically to their needs, and then put it into action. That kind of detail shows not just the results, but your thinking process, and that is what the companies are really looking for. Third, and this is arguably the most important and powerful technique in this entire section, every answer you give should consistently showcase the same core strength. Let me explain. Say you are asked, what is your greatest strength? And you answer, analytical thinking. Then they ask, what's your achievement? And if you reply, I was a marketer and increased sales by 150% through strong communication with customers. Actually, it's not a bad answer. In fact, many companies might be okay with that. But a better version would be, as a marketer, I increased sales by 150% by conducting customer surveys, analyzing the responses, and designing a sales strategy based on that analysis. Why? Because this version reinforces your strength, analytical thinking, through the story itself. At top-tier companies, where they interview tons of applicants, you have to be memorable. If your answers show a different strength each time, analysis here, communication there, you risk blending in with crowd. And let's be honest, if they are hiring for a role that values analytical skills, they'll want to hire the person who clearly demonstrates the strongest analytical ability. So here's a strategy. No matter what question they throw at you, have stories that reflect the same core strength. That's how you stand out and gain a competitive edge over other candidates. Tip 3. How to show persistence. Alright, let's move on to the third quality companies looking for, persistence. Or to put it simple, how long you are likely to stay with the company. This is something companies care about a lot. Hiring a new person costs time and money, and they really don't want to go through that process again if someone leaves early. That's why to show you are likely to stick with them is so important. And the best way to show that it's through your answers to questions like these. Why do you want to work in this industry? Why do you want to work at our company? Why these questions? Because companies believe that the stronger your motivation for the industry and the company, the more likely it is that you'll keep going even when the job gets tough. So how do you actually build a strong answer here? There's a simple but super effective 3-step structure I want to share with you. Step 1. Your career motivation. What drives you personally? Step 2. What attracts you to this company? Step 3. How your mission and the company's mission align. Let me show you a basic template using this structure. Step 1. I'm job hunting with the desire to Number 2. Among many companies, I was especially drawn to yours because of. Number 3. I want to fulfill my goal by contributing to. Let's say you are applying to the bank. Your answer might sound like this. Step 1. I want to work in the finance industry because I want to support people who are taking on challenges using financial tools. Step 2. Among many banks, your company stood out to me because I felt that you were especially committed to backing entrepreneurs and risk takers. Step 3. That's why I want to work here, so I can contribute to your mission and in doing so, achieve my own life goal as well. And here's the most important part. The most important thing in all of this is that your career motivation is deeply aligned with what you want to achieve in your life. That is what gives your answer emotional depth. And that is what makes hiring managers go, yeah, this person is in it for the long haul. Because let's be honest, if your reason is just, it seemed fun, or I think I'd get a lot of attention, that's not exactly inspiring confidence. By the way, in interviews, there is a high chance you'll be asked, why did you choose this career path? Or where does that motivation come from? So it's really important to prepare a story, personal episode that explains why you are pursuing this goal. Now, explaining how to find your life's purpose in detail would take a whole video on its own, but here's a quick exercise to help you get started. Think back to 2 specific moments from your life. Number 1, a powerful or emotional experience from your childhood. Number 2, the most stressful or challenging experience you've ever heard. For a lot of people, their career purpose, the thing they want to dedicate their life to, can be traced back to one of those 2 moments. So take time to reflect. You might be surprised by what you discover. Let's make this concrete with an example. Earlier, we talked about someone whose career motivation, or career axis as we sometimes call it in Japan, was I want to support people who take on big challenges through finance. So where did that powerful sense of purpose come from? It actually started with childhood experience. When I was 5 years old, my mother opened a small cafe. It was her dream. I still remember how happy she was that day. The reason she was able to do it was because a bank gave her a loan. That financial support allowed her to take a risk and pursue something she truly cared about. Watching that as a child, I felt inspired and I realized I wanted to do the same. I want to work in finance so I can help other people chase their dreams, just like the bank helped my mother. See how powerful that is. When your career motivation is grounded in something this personal, something you genuinely care about, your answer becomes incredibly persuasive. So if you can link your career axis to something that matters deeply to you, something you want to dedicate your life to, you'll create an answer that hiring managers can really believe in. Definitely give this a try. It can change the game. Tip 4. How to show your personality. And finally, we've come to the last essential tip. Personality. Now when we say personality, what we really mean is your values, your way of thinking, and your behavioral traits. Basically, who you are as a person. And here's the most important thing about this. Your personality and values should match the values that the company cares about, especially the kind they describe in the job posting. Companies pay a lot of attention to this. Why? Because when there is a mismatch, even highly capable people end up struggling. They underperform, or worse, they quit early, and no company wants that. Think about it this way. Let's say your personality is like this. I'm not super detail-oriented, but I'm proactive and love trying new things. Now imagine you get hired into a job where what they really want is someone who quietly and perfectly executes the same task every day without mistakes. That's a bad fit, right? Even though you might be capable, the mismatch will stop you from performing at your best. And companies know this. That's why they want to hire people whose personality and values naturally align with their culture and expectations. So, how do you actually show your personality in a way that works? There are a couple of key things to keep in mind. First, make sure your interview answers are consistent with two things. Number one, the traits listed in the job description. Number two, your aptitude test results. In Japan, a lot of companies use these tests. If you are not familiar, they are called things like SPI or CAB, and they usually come in two parts. A logic aptitude section, think math problems and verbal reasoning, and a personality section, where you answer your questions like, are you competitive or are you a planner? These personality tests are designed to figure out what kind of person you are, and companies will compare the results to what you say in interviews. Let's take an example. Imagine your personality test results say you're careful and methodical, but then during the interview, the recruiter asks, how do people actually describe you? And you answer, I'm super action-oriented and never afraid of a challenge. See the problem? Now, the company is confused. They are like, wait, so which one is it? And in the worst case, they might think you haven't done proper self-analysis, which is a red flag. That's why it's so important to reflect on who you really are before you take the personality test and before you start building your interview answers. Make sure everything aligns: your test results, your interview stories, the job description. And if you are wondering how to do that kind of self-analysis, don't worry, I'm planning to release a whole video on how to approach personality test and self-reflection the smart way. So hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. The second way to effectively show your personality is this. Make sure that the core values behind every story you share in your interview are consistent. This is actually very similar to what we talked about earlier in the reproducibility section, where we said all your answers should highlight the same core strength. Well, here, it's the same logic, but applied to your personality traits. Let's say you've done some solid self-analysis and you've discovered your personality is you are someone who listens carefully to others and values harmony. And you also have a strong desire to take on new challenges. Now your job is to make sure those two traits come through in every story you tell during the interview. Whether they're asking about your biggest achievement, your toughest challenge, or what you're most proud of, make sure the way you tell it reflects you. Now, this is something you should keep in mind when preparing answers to all your potential interview questions, but especially for these three. What's the biggest achievement you've had so far? Tell us about a time you overcome a challenge. What's something you worked hardest on in your life? For these kind of questions, it's crucial your answers reflect your core personality traits, the ones you identified earlier through self-analysis. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I'm not a one-dimensional person. I'm usually cautious, but sometimes I act boldly. Should I really stick to just one side of me? Totally fair, we are all complex. But here's the thing, when it comes to interviews, consistency is incredibly persuasive. If every story you tell, no matter what the question is, consistently reflects the same strength and personality, the interviewer is much more likely to trust and remember you. It's human psychology. In this sense, job hunting is a bit like a strategy game. And if you treat it that way and prepare strategically, you can absolutely win it. Alright, so today we went through the 4 ultimate tips to help you absolutely crush your job interview in Japan. If you build your resume and your Q&A prep based on these 4 principles, and if you practice intentionally, you'll be ready for any company, any role. So feel free to watch this video anytime you need a refresher. Trust me, these tips are timeless. If you want personal help crafting a Japanese resume that really stands out, or if you want feedback on your interview answers, I'm offering one-on-one sessions right now. Just check the link in the description for details. On this channel, I share strategies specifically for international job seekers who want to work in Japan, including how to create a Japanese resume that doubles your chances of passing document screening, how to prep for interviews that actually land your offers, and even how to find the right job listings. If that sounds helpful, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.